Okay, so let's take what we've learned about multiplying and dividing integers and real numbers and apply it to algebra. We are rapidly approaching our unit on algebra, so let's get a little mild practice in. So one thing I do want to remind you all, we talked about this in a previous video, but there's equations and there's expressions. So expressions versus equations. The big obvious difference is that an expression has no equals and an equation has an equal sign. That's just the right off the bat difference. Because of this equal sign, equations have solutions. So you can solve an equation and get a solution. These can only be simplified. So you can evaluate or simplify expressions, but there's no solution, okay? So that's the big difference. An equation has an equal sign and it has a solution. So what we're going to do in this example is we're going to determine if the given number is a solution to the equation. And this will give us a chance to practice what we've learned with multiplying real numbers. So for part A, we have negative 4x plus 21 equals negative 7x plus 15. And we want to know, is x equals negative 3 the solution? So what we do is we plug negative 3 into the equation anywhere we see an x. We evaluate, we simplify, and if we get a true statement, that's the solution. If we get a false statement, that value is not the solution to the equation. So let's see what we get. So we're just going to rewrite the entire equation, but anywhere we see an x, we're going to put in a negative 3. So we end up with negative 4 times negative 3 plus 21 equals negative 7 times negative 3 plus 15. We want to know, is this true or not? So let's do a little work. Negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12. We multiply two negatives, it becomes positive. So we get positive 12 plus 21. So 12 plus 21 is going to be what, 33? So let's see how that compares to the right-hand side of this equation. We have negative 7 times negative 3. Multiplying two negatives becomes a positive. So we get positive 21 plus 15. You can see at this point that this is not going to be true, but let's go ahead and work it out. 21 plus 15 gives us 36. Since 33 does not equal 36, x equals negative 3 is not the solution. Okay? So let's practice for part B. Part B, we have an equation that has some fractions built into the equation, which is going to be a fun thing we'll learn how to deal with in the next chapter. But we have 5x minus 1 all over 6. We want to know if that equals 3x minus 2 over 4 when x equals negative 4. Okay, so we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to take this equation, anywhere we see an x, we're going to replace it with a negative 4. We're going to simplify, and if we get a true statement, it's the solution. X is negative 4 is the solution. If we get a false statement, that's not the solution. So I have 5 times negative 4 minus 1 over 6. I want to know if that equals 3 times negative 4 minus 2 over 4. So let's see what we get. So for the first half of this equation, the left-hand side, we get 5 times negative 4, which is negative 20. And then we get negative 20 minus 1, which is negative 21 over 6. Let's see what we get for the other side. For the right-hand side of the equation, we get 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Negative 12 minus 2 is negative 14 all over 4. So we've got options here. We can try to reduce these two fractions to see if they're equal. We can convert these two fractions to decimals to see if they're equal. Or we can go back and do that cross multiply thing. If you cross multiply two fractions and find that the cross products are the same, the fractions are the same. So let's do that. So when I cross multiply, I multiply the first numerator by the second denominator, and then I multiply the first denominator by the second numerator. Whoops. So we want to see if these cross products are equal. If those cross products are equal, then the two fractions are equal, which would tell me that negative 4 is the solution. So just for the sake of time, I'm going to cheat and use my calculator, even though I really harped on knowing how to do some of these calculations by hand. So let's see, we get negative 21 times 4. That gives me negative 84. And then 6 times negative 14 gives me negative 84. So because negative 4 does equal negative 84, we can say yes. x equals -4 is the solution to this equation. And knowing how to check your solution is a very powerful thing when we get to the next unit. So the next unit, we're going to talk about solving equations like this, and it'll be really nice to understand how to check those solutions. So again, the next chapter, we're going to talk a lot more about this. So get your practice in now. All right.